Hey everybody, welcome to the latest edition of the Diamond Discussion. I am your host, Demetrius Woods, and today, y'all, it feels like the most wonderful time of the year. We've got NCAA Baseball Super Regionals and the Women's College World Series happening in the same weekend. If you're a fan of the Diamond Sports and you're a fan of the Diamond Discussion, this is your time, so let's get it started. All right, everybody, welcome once again. Hey, it's time. Let's get in going. What is that Christmas song? Is it the Andy Williams or who sings that? It's the most wonderful time of the year. Like that's what I feel like right now. It's June. We're still 6+ months away from Christmas, but it feels like it right now because in the baseball and softball world, we're full fledged. Like Major League Baseball, it's locked in. The pro softball world, it's man, they're going wild. By the way, download the MLB app if you want to watch AUSL softball this year because it is free to be seen. Every game that's not going to be on ESPN, you're going to get a chance to watch it on the MLB app. So a little plug with AUSL and that partnership with Major League Baseball, man. I can't be more ecstatic about that opportunity that's coming. As I mentioned in the intro, Supers for baseball, Women's College World Series, and the softball side. We're going to start with Supers in baseball and just briefly go through the teams we have left right now. These are the hottest 16 teams in the country right now. There were some teams that got knocked out. I felt like, boy, they should have definitely been right here in this moment, but they're not because these guys are here. And let's talk about that. And let's start, man, right here in Nashville, Tennessee. Down goes the number one seeded Vanderbilt Commodores. I am so shocked by that. We were busy over the weekend, so we weren't able to actually get over to the ballpark to see Vandy play. Man, I'm kind of glad we didn't, honestly, because I would have been a little upset watching them lose, man. But listen, I tell you, boy, Wright State, they are a force to be reckoned with. I think this is their second. You know what? I think they got the Supers last year. They were en route to their second, but obviously Louisville, man, they turned it on and they showed to be the most dominant team in the Nashville regional. So shout out to Louisville and what they were able to do, man. That pitching staff, they stayed strong all weekend, and they showed really they had the most depth of anybody. Obviously, not losing any games helps your pen be able to survive, a full weekend of ball games. So Louisville Cardinal, man, they're moving on, and they're getting paired up with the U, right? Miami University. Wow, that was impressive as well. Southern Miss, man, that Hattiesburg regional, I thought Southern Miss was right there. They should have won this one, obviously, but listen, anytime you're the 16 seed, anything goes. I mean, I feel like you're faced logically, numerically speaking, you're faced with the toughest challenge, right? They got Alabama in that regional, which although they're an SEC program, they were not, they weren't that much of a competition in my opinion. However, the U, man, they came in here and showed out, and so did Columbia. Columbia was strong too, so that was a fun little quadrant right there. I thought it was really cool. The U comes out on top, and shoot, man, I'm interested to see how they face Louisville. I mean, because I think that's really cool. Like you were supposed to have Southern Miss visiting Vandy right here in the Super Regional, but yet we've got two unseeded teams in Miami and Louisville taking over, and now Miami gets to make the trek up to Louisville, Kentucky, and we're going to see how that one plays out as well. All right, let's jump over to the number 2 seeded Texas, the Austin, Texas Regional. All right, for the first time in about 10 or 11 years, the number 1 and the number 2 seed go down in their own regional. That's just unheard of, right? 1 and 2, Vandy and Texas both go down. And Texas, man, they go down at the hands of UTSA. Those boys out of San Antonio, man, they were coming and they were forced. To me, here's the thing, and it still hurts me to this day, but I think about like LSU softball in their regional this year. They had Southeastern Louisiana, which is an in-state foe, and albeit they're not supposed to be the better of the squads, but in this case they were, right. Southeastern Louisiana showed that they were better than LSU in that setting, and UTSA baseball, man, they showed Texas what what was up, basically. And I thought that was really cool, man, to see those boys, man, walk it off and get that thing done. And they got it done, to me, convincingly. Convincingly. Like, I felt like they showed what the grit that they have in that series. And that takes me to UCLA. UCLA is the 15th seed, and they're in trouble, in my opinion. I don't think that UCLA is going to steamroll over UTSA whatsoever in this series. I think it's vital that UCLA wins the first matchup, because I think that UTSA has less depth down the stretch. However, if the UTSA picks off that first one, man, I picked them to win the series in 3 games if they can get by. On the UCLA side, man, they took care of UC Irving, which I thought was they were the most. I thought they were going to be the biggest challenge for the Bruins in that series, but ultimately UCLA prevails, and they are moving on to host UTSA out in Los Angeles. All right, let's go to this Tallahassee regional. Bethune-Cookman, HBCU out of Florida, Northeastern, and Mississippi State. I thought Mississippi State had a shot to make a run there in that series, but Florida State, man, they've been really good all year. They had some shakiness there, honestly, midway, but I think the Seminoles are one of those teams that, when it comes to getting to the postseason and making some noise, I feel like they just find a way. Man, they remind me a lot of Alabama softball. They find a way. If they have a shot to get there, they're probably going to be a team that you don't want to see when it comes to the postseason. And for that reason, Florida State's moving on, and they're going to be paired up with Oregon State. They're actually having to make the ride out to, well, flight rather, out to Oregon, because the Beavers are coming, man. Oregon State, I didn't think that they got tested much at all in this regional. They had TCU, they had St. Mary's, and then they also had USC. That's right. And so Oregon State, they're just better. That's the bottom line. They're better, and they've got what it takes to make a run into. It's been a while since we've seen Oregon State get to the Men's College World Series, but I think this is the year that they can do it. I feel like with them hosting Florida State, I think they're better. I think Oregon State gets this done in the Super Regionals matchup right here. Another one over to the other side, man. We had 2 upsets in the Oxford, Mississippi regional and the Athens, Georgia regional. Both just shocked me to no end, especially the Ole Miss one. I got a chance to watch them, man, in the SEC tournament, and they took down my LSU Tigers, and then that they fall to the hands of Vandy there in the SEC championship game. However, they just looked like a complete team, and I was kind of rooting in this regional here. I was rooting for Georgia Tech, to be honest with you, because I felt like they got shafted, hosed, whatever you want to call it. I thought Georgia Tech baseball, man, they deserved to be hosting a regional in Atlanta, Georgia, based on the way they played. I thought that was a bit odd for them to be the regular season ACC champions, and then they don't even get a regional opportunity to host there. So anyway, I thought that they did a great job, man, of hanging on. I forget the coach's name for Georgia Tech, but obviously this was it for him, and what a tenured career he had there. But I think it's time for them to turn over some new leaves there in Atlanta and see if they can finally get over that hump, because Georgia Tech has actually had some good programs in the last few years. They just haven't really done enough to be dominant in postseason play. So for that reason, man, Murray State was the winner of the Oxford Regional, and Murray State, they just, to me, in that game there, it was they lost their first game. Ole Miss had to beat Murray State twice, so that they lose the first game. I think they gave up like 18, 19 runs or something like that, crazy. And so you look at that and you go, okay, well, did they concede? No, they didn't concede by any means, but I just felt like in that moment, once they got down, it was best for them to maybe start making preparations for game 2. And you can kind of see that with the way that they ran their bullpen. And I have it right here in game 2, they still gave up 11 runs. However, they scored 12. And so that was just a fun finale right there, a game 7 at Ole Miss. By the way, I do not like the game 7s being basically a coin flip for these teams of who gets to be the home team. The same thing was in the Baton Rouge Regional, which we'll talk about in a bit. But in this regional, man, I feel like if you're the host school, then you need to be hosting a game 7 as the home seed, or at least have the option to do it. And I heard on the broadcast the other night that like the only way that they decide that is who hasn't had the home team advantage the most throughout the weekend, like who hasn't had the home field throughout the series. And it's like that's so weird to me. I mean, if you're Ole Miss, I'm like, yo, I want to be the home team um, in a game 7 scenario, right? I mean, I think that's part of what you work for by getting the bid to be the regional host. But anyway, all that to say, Murray State gets it done, and they hold on, and they're moving on. And what's about to happen, man, is that they're heading to Duke. They're heading to see Duke in Durham, North Carolina. And here's the thing, man. Georgia really just laid an egg. I don't know how else to put that. I thought Oklahoma State was, a genuine opponent, but I didn't think they were going to be able to make any noise in this series worth value, I would say. But Georgia, man, I fully anticipated their offense and their staff to be overwhelming favorites, really, in this regional. And Duke said, no, not today. And we're gonna take care of business. So Duke is moving on, and so is Murray State. That's another combination of unseeded teams that's gonna make it, man, to the next to the World Series. So you got Miami and Louisville facing each other as unseeded teams, so that's a guaranteed one. One of them are making it to the World Series. Same with Duke and Murray State. So you're at least going to have 2 unseeded teams going into the men's college World Series. I think that's so awesome, and it's going to make for some good theater come World Series time. But we got supers to worry about right now. Let's keep moving. And this North Carolina regional, no competition. I thought Oklahoma was good enough to knock them off once there in Game 6. However, North Carolina proved to be too much. I think Chapel Hill has been really the standard for a long time in North Carolina, but obviously Duke's there, NC State's there, right? You got some other programs there, but North Carolina is the one, right? They're a top 5 seed for a reason, and they deserve that, and they've earned their right rather to host Arizona, right? Who knew? Who knew, boy? The Wildcats from Arizona, man, upset the Oregon Ducks out in Eugene. And listen, I tell you, Arizona was a great assist rather, by Utah Valley, because Utah Valley gave everything they had, and they gave Oregon everything they could ask for in that game. Well, you know what? Let me look it up real quick, guys, because Utah Valley actually, yeah, they beat Oregon at the onset. Yes, they beat Oregon at the onset 6-5. So Oregon drops down. They got to play Cal Poly, and then Cal Poly takes care of them as well. So you've got 2, what you would call mid-majors out there who said, "Hey, man, we're here. We're here to play." So, but I just felt like, man, overall that made the run a little easier for Arizona not having to see Oregon. I thought that matchup was going to be problematic for Arizona, but Cal Poly and Utah Valley said, "Hey, Arizona, we got it. We got it taken care of." And ultimately, those guys were not enough for Arizona coming off of those victories, and so Arizona gets the nod, and they're heading to Chapel Hill. So there you go. Heading to the other side, man, you've got West Virginia upsetting Clemson. This was a big shock to me. I'll tell you that, man. I thought that Clemson was right there. I think they were one of the top ACC programs this year. I mean, obviously you got Florida State and UNC ahead of them, but and then you got the likes of Louisville and others around, and Duke. But I think that Clemson, man, they overperformed this year based on what they had, but they were consistent throughout the season. And so as they continue to show like who they are and what they can be, like going into this regional with Kentucky, I didn't think that Kentucky was going to be that much of a challenge, but they were. And then West Virginia, man, looking to make their second appearance in a row into the Supers, I believe. Like they were like, yo, we're here, and we're ready to roll. So, and West Virginia took care of business in that Clemson regional. So shout out to West Virginia, and they have a date out in Baton Rouge with my LSU Tigers, which I'm pumped, man. So listen, first of all, before I talk about that, yo, dude, LSU, man, they looked really good. We had two shutouts in that series to start it off with Dallas Baptist University and Little Rock. But let me tell you, man, about Little Rock, guys. If you have not seen this team play ball, these guys just keep coming at you, dude. They keep rolling, they keep doing enough to get the job done. And down the stretch, I mean, that last game where LSU took over late, I think it was like sixth or seventh inning. I mean, offensively, LSU started to kind of rake and finally turn it on in that game. But that game was right there for the taking. Okay, I watched the last 4 or 5 innings of that one, and it could have gone either way, in my opinion. Watching Little Rock, push LSU to the brink offensively because they were matching step for step. I thought Evans, the freshman out of LSU, man, he pitched a gem. I think 109, 110 pitches, and he got us to Anthony Ianson to be able to close it out, but it was not easy. And our offense has got to be better, honestly, bottom line. And we've got to be better, and we've got to be able to pull away from guys to be able to establish that dominance, because West Virginia is no. Here's the thing. They're no chump change, obviously, but they're not new to this at all. So you're not getting like some just youthful program or whatever. Like West Virginia's been building last few years, and there's a reason why they're 2 wins away from the College World Series. So we'll see how that Baton Rouge Supers goes between West Virginia and LSU. I got 2 more for you guys, man. So this is kind of cool. So we moved here to Nashville, but my wife is a big Auburn fan because her dad went to Auburn. And then speaking of her dad, they just moved recently to Myrtle Beach to start a church home there. If you live in the Myrtle Beach or Conway area, check out Pathway Church, brand new, and happens to be my favorite pastor to listen to. My father-in-law, Jay Thompson, there. But anyway, point is, they moved to Conway. So there's Coastal Carolina University in Conway, and then of course Auburn Tigers, that is. And so you got the 4 seed and the 13 seed matched up right here together. Auburn will be hosting Coastal Carolina, and that should be a fun series, man, because Coastal Carolina, being in that Sun Belt conference, they had some good challenges along the way, right? They're in the conference with Arkansas State and Georgia State, Texas State, those teams right there, ULL, everybody, right? They're all in there together, but they're a nationally ranked team for a reason, and I think with them being able to have Florida, East Carolina, and even Fairfield in that regional was a good test for them. I think that they're going to be prepared for Auburn, but they put up a lot of runs, minus that last game against East Carolina, 1-0 shutout. They put up a ton of runs, man, but they were just unfazed, unchallenged throughout. And I think that it'll be intriguing to watch them compete against Auburn, because I think that Auburn right now, given where they are in terms of their offense being very, very top heavy, in my opinion, I just wonder who's gonna blink first, right? Will Auburn's offense be able to withstand what they're doing? Because they also, I think, let's see, they scored probably 30 runs. Let's see, 28 runs. Yeah, they scored 28 runs in this regional. All right, they had Central Connecticut, Stetson, and NC State. They played all 3 teams in their regional, and ultimately took care of all of them without much of a test. And so it'll be interesting, man, to see what happens, which offense is going to be stifled, because one of them probably will be, and whoever stifles the other, man, they're going to the World Series. So we'll see. All right, so last one here, and this is a matchup we kind of anticipated. However, Tennessee scared me a little bit. Tennessee, man, they took care of business, but the Demon Deacons from Wake Forest, they were testing limits. All right, they were testing limits, and they forced a Game 7 against Tennessee. The Vols end up getting it done to move on. The 3-seeded Arkansas Razorbacks, who you fully expected to be right where they were, I don't think that they were challenged much at all in that regional. The Razorbacks, to me, man, there's an argument to be made that they're the best team in the country, honestly, the way they play. So I'm interested to see how this series goes. How will Tennessee pitch them? Obviously, they're the defending champs, and they're the champs until anybody else says otherwise. However, Arkansas is the better team in this series, but it's an all SEC matchup, and I think this is the only all SEC matchup we have here. And so you know what happens, man, when you face teams from your own conference. You've seen each other before, and you know what you've been scouting. You understand, what they bring to the table. So there's certainly familiarity here, no doubt. So who will be able to make the in-game adjustments quicker, and will those adjustments pay off? Right, that's the question. So anyway, guys, I've got Arkansas winning that series as well. So just a quick understanding here of who I've got advancing. I've got Louisville over Miami. I've got UTSA upsetting UCLA. All right. I've got Oregon State taking care of Florida State. I've got Duke beating Murray State, although Murray State really, really impressed me in that Ole Miss regional. I think Duke is going to take it home. Chapel Hill regional, or super regional rather. I got North Carolina beating Arizona. I've got my LSU Tigers prevailing against West Virginia, though I don't think it will be easy. I've got Auburn beating Coastal Carolina, and I've got Arkansas taking care of Tennessee. So that is my College World Series pick right now. We'll see how this pans out, but it's going to be a phenomenal weekend, man, of baseball. We got rain in different pockets of the country, so I know that's going to add an extra element to all of this. But we're going to see. We're going to see how it goes, and I hope you guys will tune in to the baseball world as well. So anyway, I'm going to take a quick break, and we're going to talk about the softball world briefly. We're down to the wire, man. At the time of this recording right now, we are a couple of hours shy of Game 1 happening out in Oklahoma City between Texas Tech and Texas. But before we dive into that, guys, I'm going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Okay, everybody, welcome back to the show. It is Women's College World Series talk time. Let me just tell you something, man. The way that this World Series has unfolded so far, it's tough to predict what's going to happen tonight, tomorrow, and on what is that, Friday. I mean, I don't know. I really don't know. I am very, very I'm not shocked at who's here. I'm just shocked at the way they got there. Okay, because if you guys remember last show, I picked Oklahoma and Texas Tech to be in the championship series. Okay. However, the way that it worked out to where Texas ended up beating Oklahoma, all right, early on, which flipped the brackets to where Oklahoma and Texas Tech had to play. And I just felt like when that happened, obviously there was no room for Oklahoma and Texas Tech to both make it, because now they're in each other's way of getting to the championship series. However, I just figured, though, that Oklahoma would figure out a way to take care of Texas Tech in that game. And it was such an electric atmosphere. It was such a great game. I mean, my goodness. Nyjah Kennedy, man, I know everybody's calling her the $1 million woman right now, but she's more than that, dude. I mean, she is absolutely just simply spectacular. And before this move to Texas Tech, I mean, if you didn't know about her NIL deal, I mean, you should have watched her at Stanford, right? I mean, watch what she did in last year's World Series, right? Last year's Supers against LSU and the regionals leading up to that and throughout the regular season. Nyjah Kennedy is that girl. So for her to be in this situation right now is no surprise at all. A lot of you guys may not have known what she was about, but now you do. And I think it's going to be really, really exciting series against the Texas Longhorns. Here's the thing. Game 1, it's on her shoulders, right? She's thrown every pitch of this postseason for the Red Raiders, and I think she's going to be expected to go the distance today. And if she's able to go the distance today, I fully expect that they get it done. All right. Earlier in the season, Texas beat Texas Tech in 9 innings. I think Tegan Cavan threw all 9 innings for Texas, and then Najee Kennedy threw, I guess that would be eight or nine, whatever it was, for Texas Tech. It was a very, very low scoring ball game. And I think right now, like these two pitchers, okay, think about this. These two pitchers right now, if you combine their ERA is like .74, right? So combined, they're giving up less than a run per game. I don't anticipate this series being some over the top, crazy, wild, like high scoring affair. I fully expect it to be what it needs to be, which is a low scoring, very, very scrappy, finding a way to steal runs. Maybe it's via small ball, maybe it's via putting pressure on the defense that way, stealing bases, those type of things. Those catchers are going to be tested, right? I just feel like it's going to be one of those old school battles where you're not going to see a lot of just long balls, a lot of extra base hits, things like that. But let me tell you, both squads, both offenses have a chance to do that though. And it'll be very interesting to me to see, will Tegan Cavan give up a bunch of runs? Will Najee Kennedy give up a bunch of runs? Well, who will they go to next, right? We know that Texas has depth in their staff, but we also know that there's a humongous gap between Tegan Cavan and the next best pitcher on that staff. It could be Mac Morgan, right? It could be anybody. But here's the thing: Texas Tech rests on Nija, and that'll be again. They have other pitchers and they can spell innings and certainly do that. But right now, there's a reason why Najee Kennedy has thrown every single pitch in the Women's College World Series for Texas Tech. Right? They trust her. She is that girl, and she is going to be the one that gets to the promised land. Along with, though, they're very, very confident offense. Now, here's the thing about this offense, man. They're not an explosive offense, but they are a scrappy offense, and that's why I feel like they're gonna murk up this series. In my opinion, they are going to put pressure on Texas, and they might not score a ton of runs. All right. However, I think that they're going to apply pressure, and they're going to do things unconventionally. They're going to steal home like they did against UCLA, which is wild, right? They're gonna take bases. They're gonna test the limits of Reese Atwood behind the dish there for Texas and see if she can actually throw them out at second base consistently, right? Because if they're able to get runners in scoring position, with the likes of Elena Johnson, man, shout out to her in the series she's had so far here in Oklahoma City. Like they're ready to go. So I'm pumped, and because of that, guys, I give Texas Tech a chance. I really do. I know that they're not the betting favorites by any means. I think they're they're plus 225 or something like that on ESPN bets or whatever if you're into the betting world. But what that means though is that Texas is a heavier favorite than maybe some anticipate, and I think that Texas is a heavier favorite because they have a deeper offense. And once you get past the Cavan Kennedy saga, right, that matchup, what has to weigh the other? Wow, I'll weigh the other. Because if you look at it right now, Cavan is step for step with Kennedy in terms of what she's been able to do in the circle, right? And so because of that, if they're neutralizing each other, well, who has the deeper offense, right? Because defensively, both teams are very good, right? Both teams are strong. They're solid defensively. They don't make a lot of boneheaded plays by any means, and they get outs, and they both have good quality outfields, right? I think I said earlier in the year, like Arkansas, in my opinion, had the best outfield, you know, in the country. And by the way, on Arkansas's, while we're there, shout out to Bree Ellis, Player of the Year action. All right, she 1,000,000% deserved that, so that was awesome. But I think that Texas and Texas Tech's outfield, man, they're both right there. And but I think all that to say though, Texas is good enough to get one game out of Niger. And because of that, right now, and I am picking with my head and not my heart. All right, I think Texas gets this done. I think that they've been here 3 of the last 4 years. Obviously, losing to Oklahoma twice in this setting, They're very, very familiar with Oklahoma City, right? Texas Tech is very, very new to this. However, that does not take away from anything that they've done to this point whatsoever. Because they're not new to winning, obviously, and they're not new to understanding a moment. I mean, these girls have been balling since they were 5, 6 years old, probably, right? So they know what it takes. They understand the moment. So regardless of the experience, right, the talent's still there. However, the experience does help mentally when the rubber meets the road and at times. That's not why I'm giving Texas the edge, though. I just simply give Texas the edge because I think that they're deeper. I think that they've got a little more to offer right now, and I feel like Kennedy's going to take care of them at one point. I just don't know when that is. I hope it's tonight. My heart says Texas Tech, but my head says Texas. I think that Naja Kennedy gets it done tonight, all right, in game one. I think she can get Texas Tech a 1-0 lead in the series, and anything goes at that point. But ultimately, I think Texas prevails, and the Longhorns win their first women's College World Series ever. And so that's my pick. However, again, that's my head pick. My heart pick is rooting for Kennedy, Elena Johnson, and those Red Raiders. But we'll see how this goes. And I tell you what, man, please tune in. Please tune in. There's been record-breaking numbers already. I think the Tennessee UCLA game had crazy, ridiculous numbers, peaking out around like 2-3 million. So I mean, people are watching, people are tuning in, which I love it. But tune in, man, because this is the greatest show on dirt for a reason, and it's not something that you're gonna want to miss. I think. I think also what this is doing right now, though, with it not being the Oklahoma Invitational, I think more people are interested, right? And I think that was kind of the good thing, if you will, for the sport itself of Patty Gasso and the Sooners finally going down at the hands of a player that they were able to knock off twice last year. If you recall, Stanford's 2 losses last year came at the hands of Oklahoma, right? And they were by 1 and 2 runs respectively. So and Naja Kennedy was in the circle at that time for Stanford. So anyway, all that to say, what a lot of drama we've had thus far. I'm so stoked for what's to come. I'll tell you this, guys, before we go. My thought you should know moment is very, very simple. As I always try to keep it. Okay, but write this one down. Okay, write this one down. When you think about the game of softball or baseball, okay, when you think about the game of softball or baseball, I want you to understand that it is a game of chess, not a game of checkers. Okay. And the reason I want you to think about that, or my thought you should know moment, is around that, is because I know that there are a lot of people out there who are just now getting into softball or just now getting into baseball, and maybe they don't fully understand the chess match that happens between the pitcher and the batter, right, or the catcher and the base runners, or the coaches and the other coaches, right? There's a lot of chess matches that go on throughout the game that you don't really notice, right? But if you understand the game more and you begin to kind of dive into it and immerse yourself into it, you really begin to appreciate the game of chess that's being played between everybody on the field, right? So I just encourage you guys, man, to just give it a shot. Tune in, because it's not basketball, it's not football, it's not soccer, it's not some of those world-renowned sports that people play all over the world and at that high of a level, right? In terms of, and people play it all over the world, but it's not highly respected like that, like soccer would be potentially, right? But it's coming, and this game of softball is certainly one that has helped shape my 20s, honestly, as a coach, and I owe an extended amount of gratitude to the game of softball and what it's taught me as a person, as a coach, and now I'm playing, men's baseball again not again, for the first time, and forever. And so, I'm part of the game as a coach and a player still, and I understand the game at a high level. But I tell you, there's so many things that you can continue to learn, even if you've been around it for a long time, guys. So anyway, that is my thought you should know moment. That is our show for the day. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you will go watch baseball this weekend. I hope you will go watch softball this weekend. And don't forget to tune in to the AUSL Pro Softball League as well. With all that being said, guys, please let everything you do be done in love, because at the end of the day, that is truly what makes this wonderful world go round. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.